Hey everyone, okay, so today's video is really going to be showing you different techniques for blushing or blusher when dealing with different face shapes. Now, remember that it really doesn't matter, okay? It's just makeup. So you can apply it however you want, but this is just sort of 4 different ways to apply it for different face shapes. So I'm going to be using brush number 15, which is obviously mine, or brush number 14, depending on the application. So I'm going to be using this palette here of blushes. And the first one tends to be a more universal blush technique because you just apply it starting up here at the hairline, you come forward and then just go in a little bit of a circle on the apple of the cheek. Now, I do not ask anybody to smile when doing blusher, particularly if they're over the age of sort of 30, because as you smile, your face creates micro wrinkles, and when you're applying blush over that, the blush gets into the lines and it doesn't settle and look as pretty. Plus, when you smile, the apple of the cheek is here, and when you stop smiling, it's down there by your lip. We don't want that. So the first one is you take it up here at the kind of hairline, and then as you come down, you do a little circle where you think the apple of the cheek is. Now, I know that I'm using a fan brush, but it works really beautifully. So you're starting here at the cheekbone and you're just working your way in and then working your way back out, blending it and fading it into the hairline. And you can see that it just gives a really pretty kind of look to the face, and this suits almost every single face shape. Now, if you have a very long face, then this is a great way. This is more the apple of the cheeks, but without the smiling aspect. So I'm switching to brush number 14 for this. And you want to find your apple of the cheek, which is about here, and you apply it in a more circular motion, but you are blending it back slightly, but not to a huge degree. So you're starting here, and then you're just fading it back. By doing it here, right in the center, and kind of just moving it ever so slightly, this diffusing motion will widen a very long face. So certainly with a long face, a blush application that's very, very sharp or angular is really going to kind of emphasize that. So this kind of really pretty kind of circular motion really can widen a, slightly long face. You just apply a bit more foundation to cover this. In case you're wondering what foundation I'm using, I'm actually using RCMA, and the foundation shade that I am using is OL4. So just in case you are wondering, and I'm obviously using my brush because I like it. Okay, so just want to cover some of that. So we've done the first one, which is the more universal. We start at the hairline and then come in at a more circular angle. And then we've got the second one, which is that kind of halo effect where you blend out slightly. Really good for very, very long faces or square faces. So we want to move on. Now this one is a totally different, well, it's a bit similar to the first technique, but it's really, really, really good. Now what makes this so good, just going to get a little bit of blush, is very similar to the first one, but this time what we're doing is we're creating an arc. So we start here at the hairline again, and you want to blend it into the hairline and then come up into an arc. So you're creating this really pretty kind of arc of colour like this. So you're going round like this. It's a very old technique. You're looking at the sort of way bandy Kevin O'Quarr days, but it still works beautifully today. And it gives, and the great thing about fan brush is that they splay. So you don't get these hard kind of lines. They just splay really nicely. And by doing this, you are highlighting this part of your face. So it's great for round faces because you're pulling it up. It's really, really nice if you've got a heart-shaped face and you really want to emphasize those amazing cheekbones. And it's also great for a long face because you're taking it up here, and that draws some of the attention away from the squareness because you're creating more warmth in that area. So you can see it here. It's a very pretty kind of arc colour. Okay, finally we've got, this is more geared to those of you with very, very round faces. This is very, very similar to contouring, but you're not trying to contour a jawline. You're trying to put the blusher, so you're sucking your cheeks to find your cheekbone, you're placing the blusher just above where the hollow is. That's the hollow, so you want to apply it here, and you're going in a straight line. So you create the line first, like this, and you are blending it towards the mouth. So just take it here first to create this line, then you knock off all the excess product on the back of your hands, or use another brush to blend, and you then very gently blend that up. It has to blend up. Okay, you don't want to blend it down because then you've got blusher here, which you don't want. You are blending it up, and by blending it up, you are creating a more beautiful, it's not a contour because that's the line, and by blending it and bleeding it up, you're fading that away. And that's a really, really good way of doing blusher for very, very round faces or faces where you want to add a bit more elongation. Now, one of the things that people are going to ask me, particularly with techniques that involve applying it up high to the cheekbone area, such as the first application and the third application, which are my favorite applications, is where does the highlighter go? Well, I will tell you. I will tell you. Highlighter goes on your cheekbone. Now, there seems to be this thing where you should have blush, highlighter, bronzer. The whole thing should marry into one. You shouldn't be able to see where your bronzer is, or where your highlighter is, or where your blusher is. The whole thing should just blend and bleed into one. So let me get a highlighter. I do have one. Okay, so I'm just going to use this one because it was the first one that I could find. It's actually not my favourite, but there you go. It's Global Glow by MAC. So, highlighter goes on the top of the cheekbone, right here. That's it, right there. I'm not talking about applying it so that it's like a beacon of light, but it just goes right on top of the cheekbone. And the highlighter, when you look from the front, should not be seen. It's not here, which would create a greasy mess. It's right on top of the cheekbone, which is blending in with the blusher that we just applied. The whole thing is a, you know, like it's a cacophony of colour. A cacophony of colour. Does that even make sense? It should all become one and be beautiful. So there's no blusher, highlighter, bronzer, contouring. The whole thing should be blended into one. And that is the 4 blush techniques for different face shapes. So I'll have them in the description bar below, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll explain the face shapes in there as well, along with the links to the RCMA foundation if you're interested in it. And of course the blushes that I used, which are these, which are fabulous. And just for those of you wondering, I actually tend to, it's rare for me to use a single colour, so I tend to go like that. And with that noise. So that tends to be how I do it. Okay, I will see you all soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.